I'd like to introduce Deborah Dean, who will introduce our program for today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone here in the Oak Room and all the ships at sea on Zoom. When I emailed Margi about a few introductory remarks, she emailed me back and said, rightfully, my presentation, as you know, is entitled, It's All About Me. It includes more than most folks need or want to know. Skip a formal introduction, leaving time for up to 3 questions at the end. Smiley face. Please be advised this program is rated PG. So I only want to add on a personal note, I've gotten to know Margi. She is a founding member of OCAMIC, and she's a mean, and by that I mean skillful and witty, not mean-spirited, mahjong player. Ready for a treat? I am.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
April 2nd, 1931. It's my birthday. Maundy Thursday, Thursday of Holy Week. But my preference was to wait 3 days and be born on Easter Sunday. Obviously, my mother, the doctor, and God had other plans. But hey, April 2nd is a good day. It works. What if, for example, I'd been born a day earlier? Oh, and what if, for example, every birthday for the rest of my life, this is what I heard.
April Fool!
I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. You know, I wish I could remember more about those early days, but when you're a newborn, everything is new, and there's just so much to learn. For example, how do you know how long you're supposed to cry before somebody will pick you up? And when they pick you up, if they pat you on the back, how do you know you're supposed to burp? Isn't that bad manners? The real challenge is mother's milk. The idea is where and how. But that was a long time ago. That was 90 years ago. So I'll remember what I can. The birth certificate is your passport to the world. There are 3 important items here on my birth certificate. Number 1, the date, which we've already discussed. Secondly, my name. It's a double name, Margaret Ann. I've always been called Margaret Ann up through the age of 30, at which time a very significant member of my family started calling me Margi. The real important thing here on my birth certificate is my last name, Clarke, C-L-A-R-K-E, with the E being the most significant part. What does the E do? The E indicates that it's an Irish name. Without the E, it's an English name. Heaven forbid. Being the first child of loving parents was special, as was being the first grandchild of Irish-born grandparents. But that was short-lived. Ah, yes. March 21st, 1932. 12 days before my first birthday, my mother gave birth to another baby girl. I had a sister. I was still special, but I wasn't that special. I was an Irish twin. An Irish twin means 2 siblings born of the same mother within a 12-month period. When we were young, being the older was a very important distinction for me. As we got older, like in our 20s and 30s, it didn't much matter anymore. In the course of time, my parents welcomed 4 boys into our family: Edward, Tom, Dave, and Jim. And when Jim came into the family, I was 16 years old, which gave me a lot of opportunity to learn baby minding, which frankly came in handy a whole lot later in my life. We lived on the Lower West Side of Cleveland. My grandmother, mother, dad, Ed, Tom, Dave, Jim, Rosemary, and Margaret Ann. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. A coal furnace, 1 bathroom. A cinder driveway, 1 bathroom. Because of our proximity to the Brookside Zoo, we could hear the lions roar at night. There are always lots of kids to play with in our neighborhood, with the usual bikes, skates, jump ropes, chalk, and a street light. And the street light was important because when it went on at night, that was a signal that you had to go home. I fondly remember how the Clark kids, Clarks with an E, envied the Lowry kids who were living 2 doors down from us. The Lowry's father worked for Coca-Cola. He was a salesman, and often on the weekend, he would bring home samples. Our dad worked in a bank. We had no samples, and we drank Kool-Aid. More about me. I'm a girl, the oldest of 6 children, skinny, wearing glasses, not athletic, with buck teeth. I was determined that the only way to get any attention was to behave myself and to be very bright. That was my plan. I would be bright, and eventually I would become a school teacher. The summer of 1949 was a big summer for me. I graduated from Lourdes Academy for girls, and in September I was a scholarship student at Ursuline College for women, all in one summer. But this is still about me, 4 years of college, living at home, riding city buses every day across the city to classes. My sister, in the meantime, had done what every intelligent woman did at that time. She went to college for 1 year, dropped out, and got married. Now I had the double bed to myself, and now there were only 8 of us in the 1 bathroom. I was active in the leadership program at the university and socially popular with the students in the nearby all-male John Carroll University, mixers, football games, things of that type. My junior year, I was the so-called date of the John Carroll student body president. It was a big deal. It was a downtown hotel, it was a formal dance, and it had a big band leader, Vaughn Monroe. I'm going to tell you a funny story. That night, as we approached the bandstand for the crowning ceremony, I overheard Vaughn Monroe say to one of his musicians, "They sure don't pick 'em for looks." On graduation night, June 1953, 50% of the girls in my class were engaged to be married. I also had possibilities, but marriage was not one of them at this time. With the BA in English and Ohio State teacher certificate, I was blessed to get an appointment at Wilbur Wright Junior High School, a magnet school in Cleveland. My goal to be a teacher was fulfilled. My classes were challenging. A magnet school provides curriculum for the brightest kids in the city. Many times each day, I answered their question with, "I don't know, let's find out." The principal asked me to start a school newspaper. My first editor was Donna Shalala, who, among other noted positions, became president of Miami University. The second year, my editor was Leonard Downey, who became managing editor of the Washington Post. 4 wonderful years, loving teaching these bright kids, loved living at home with a loving family that provided a hot meal each night, and more boyfriends. But Grandma, who lived with us, had concerns. This gets interesting. In late November 1956, a fellow teacher told me that her date, who was pursuing her, had said it would be more fun to double if she could provide a girl and he would provide a fellow. And so, Charles Sidman, reluctantly doing his friend a favor, appears on the scene. Now that'll cause a, yeah. The next morning, following the blind date, Grandma greets me at breakfast with, "What's wrong with this one? He's nice looking intelligent, and Catholic. He checked all of Grandma's boxes. "Do you think he will call you?" she asked. To which I replied, "Grandma, he was doing his college friend a great big favor. He is more involved with academics and sports than he is in dating." Later, Charles related several days after the blind date, his friend had called to ask his permission to date me, and his reply was,
Be my guest.
but several weeks later, Charles was asked to chaperone a high school dance. He obviously needed a date, and a few weeks later, I was chairing a Christmas formal, and I needed a date, so I asked him. When in December he told me he had been awarded a Fulbright and would be spending the next year in Germany, I became much more interested. Europe was on my bucket list. I was even more challenged and became irresistibly charming. I've been told I have never been so charming since then. In early June, we were married, and 2 weeks later, we were on a German ship on our way to Tübingen for 14 months in Europe. Grandma was right. Getting married so quickly and preparing for a year in Europe was like being shot out of a cannon. Wow! And the cannon continues to fire to this day. My French and Latin were of little use as I ground my teeth nightly with language frustration. The war hadn't been over long. The English shopkeepers didn't speak English. Charles attended German seminars as he pursued his PhD program, and I struggled with daily living. We lived in one room with a coal-burning stove, a sink with cold water, a two-burner stove in the hall, and the adjacent toilet, which was shared by 10 tenants. To take a shower required a weekly walk to the public showers in the center of town for 25 minutes of glorious hot water, and then a walk home with wet hair in the cold. We traveled as often as the university schedule permitted. You name it, we were there, usually sitting up all night on the train to avoid paying for a cheap hotel. Traveling with a European historian contributes much to the journey, sometimes more than you need to know. We never owned a camera. We kept a detailed diary, which is exhausting to read even in today. Many good memories include a private audience with Pope Pius XII, which had been arranged by one of my college professors, the World's Fair in Brussels, plays, theater, then back to Madison, Wisconsin for favorite husband to be awarded a PhD in history, and the cannon was still booming. The job market in European history was tight in December 1959. We learned after the fact that there were 62 applicants for the position of instructor with a PhD, which Charles accepted at the University of Kansas in Lawrence. In my experience, people came from Kansas. Whoever went to Kansas, we did. 17 wonderful years in Kansas. Great colleagues and friends. Hot, windy Kansas summers. Great colleagues and friends. Cold, windy Kansas winters. Great colleagues and friends. Disappointed not to have started a family, we made applications to Catholic Charities in Kansas City to build our family through adoption. And so we welcomed 5 biologically unrelated newborn babies in turn in the course of 7 years. Charles III in 1963, Katie in 1964, Peggy in 1965, Eileen in 1968, and Thomas, a New Year's baby born in 1970. I remember we had left the party, the New Year's Eve party, that previous evening early, as we had promised to get the babysitter home before midnight. Little did I know I was in labor again. We are blessed.
I was born in Kansas, I was bred in Kansas, and when I get married, I'll be wed in Kansas. There's a true blue gal who promised she would wait. She's a sunflower from the sunflower state.
Mothering, usual mothering chores, diapers, carpooling, school schedules, plus the needs of a husband successfully climbing the professional ladder. Instructor, assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, chairman of the department. Yes, Lawrence was our home, but Charles was offered invitations to be a visiting professor in Europe. A total of 8 years of our 17 years in Kansas were spent living overseas. The kids and everything went with us. You rent out your Lawrence home, you pack suitcases, you make arrangements for travel, make arrangements for where you're going to live, you tearfully kiss your washer and dryer goodbye. The ages of the children determined their schooling opportunities. Whenever possible, they went to local schools. Kids make friends easily. Some of those friendships exist to this day. When at home in Lawrence, in addition to motherly and wifely duties, in self-defense, I enrolled in German classes at the university, and I found out I loved German. Returning to class one time after missing a seminar, one of the students offered me her notes and said, had I completed the assignment? I told her I hadn't. I said, I have 5 cases of chickenpox at home. She never sat next to me again. Unlike English, which has so many exceptions, the Germans just make another rule, and they stick with it. I persevered and got a master's degree in German. Lacking a guttural resonance, German folks love my correct grammar, and they think I'm French. Now more about me, noch mehr. But I do have a very serious problem. What is it called? It's called an umlaut. 2 little dots above a vowel, which changes the sound of the vowel, a difference I cannot hear and I cannot duplicate. In previous trips to Germany, we had lived in cities with umlauts in their names, Tübingen and München. In 1967, we are going to Bonn. I can say Bonn. Our host at the University of Bonn notifies us that there's no suitable housing in Bonn, but they have arranged a house for us in a visiting community called Rumlichhofen. Now, living in Rumlichhofen, I often traveled to Bonn on the train to shop. My pronunciation of Rumlichhofen always required me to say it at least 2 or 3 times when purchasing a ticket from Bonn to come back to Rumlichhofen. Alas, I observed the price of the ticket from Rumlichhofen to Bonn was the same as the price of the ticket from Oberkassel to Bonn, which was just 1 stop short. Now I've got it made. Oberkassel bitte. Jawohl, jawohl. Click, click. Ticket. No problem. This day, I'm coming home to Rumlichhofen on my Oberkassel ticket. The conductor comes down the aisle, big smile on his face, takes Charles, who was with me, by the hand, young Charles, picks up one of my grocery bags, and puts them on the platform in Oberkassel. So I arrive home. Favorite husband says, I thought you were taking the 4 o'clock train. I did, I said. He said, was the train late? No, I replied. Then why are you late, he asked. Because I can't say Rumlichhofen. I walked from Oberkassel. Back in Lawrence, the longest 5 years of our lives concerned following a dream, designing, building, and managing a restaurant called Ballpark Baseball in Lawrence, Kansas. It was a popular sport for drinks and snacks where basically students and faculty members came and played a game which my husband had devised as an avocation called Ballpark Baseball. A neighbor and I made the potato salad. The house always smelled like vinegar. We celebrated when the lease on the restaurant expired, but the game lives on and is still being played today. Now it's time for Margie to give some thought to post-baby activities, like maybe a part-time job. Office manager, University of Kansas Interfraternity Council, part-time, said the ad in the Daily Kansan. At the interview, I was the only applicant over the age of 20. I was the only applicant with hair above my shoulders and with a skirt below my knees. I got the job. Now I also had college-age children to take care of. I provided advice to the lovelorn. I promoted class activities and attendance. I made cards available for Mother's Day. I organized their functions, and I loved the job, and the job loved me. But the move to Florida brought this to an end. 1978, change is in the air. We had bought a larger home to accommodate the needs of our 5 maturing kids. Charles's career was peaking as he was asked to renew for a second time as chairman of the department. And invitations to apply for deanships elsewhere were increasing. And the Kansas wind blew hot in the summer, and the Kansas wind blew cold in the winter. One of the most interesting approaches was from the University of Florida, and one in which Charles saw growth. And when he permitted his name to go forward to be interviewed, they never let go. Kansas was not pleased that he would consider leaving. It was reported in jest at a dinner party, someone said, "Don't worry, Charles won't get the job. He's taking Margie with him." Our visit to Gainesville was pleasant, and it was obvious the powers that be liked us. But hey, why wouldn't they? Some things were different in Gainesville, like what was wrong with the trees? They didn't blow all the time. And why did the realtor who was trying to sell us a house keep talking about live oaks? Who would be interested in dead oaks? As Charles and I were being driven back to the airport by the Bryants, Bob Bryan, who was vice president for academic affairs, said, "You'll be hearing from the president." To which I replied, "If we get the offer, Bob Marston will call. If we don't get the offer, we'll hear from Bob Bryan." To which Bob replied, "You got that right." But we did get the call, and we got a Western Union message. The message was delivered to our house. The messenger rang the doorbell. With a big smile on his face, he handed me the telegram and said, "This is really good news." So in May 1978, the Sidmans moved to Gainesville.
You're all right anywhere you land. Gainesville was a big town. 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 Gainesville was a big town.
Favorite husband Charles became the dean of 2 colleges, University College and the College of Arts and Sciences, with the awesome challenge of uniting these 2 entities, self-seeking, controversial, self-centered entities into one happy, successful College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. As the wife of 2 deans and the mother of 5 potential teenagers, my days were well programmed and my sanity threatened. In search of something for me, I decided to seek a part-time job, a job that would permit me to be home when the kids were home and to have dinner on the table every night for a husband and children. And that's how I became the office manager for the First Lutheran Church in Gainesville, affectionately known as the Papal Spy. The Lutheran Church was located on Fifth Avenue, and I thought it was cool to work on Fifth Avenue. The work was meaningful, the parishioners became friends, the pastor was wonderful. During my time there, I was hospitalized with a life-threatening reoccurrence of breast cancer. I'm in my hospital bed when I hear this loud, booming voice coming down the hospital hall. Put away the bingo cards. Put away the rosary beads. Here's your Lutheran pastor. When I asked him how they had managed the previous week, he replied, well, the Sunday bulletin got printed. My sermon was typed, but with substantially less corrections. But there was a problem with the large rose window in the balcony, he said. It trembled so violently, we thought it might just blow in. Oh, I said, was there a storm? And he said, no. Then he paused and he said, we prayed for a Catholic by name. Obviously, the prayers worked because I'm still here. When I was working in the office and we couldn't find something, I often said, don't worry, Pastor, St. Anthony will find it for us. He's the patron saint of finding lost objects. When I was getting ready to leave the job, Pastor said to me, Margaret, you're not taking St. Anthony with you, are you? I was frequently asked when I was at the Lutheran Church, do you think Protestants can go to heaven? To which I replied, yes, but it's a lot easier if you're Catholic. In time, volunteerism took me to Catholic Charities, American Cancer Society, the Hospice House, and the Ronald McDonald House. Originally, I was a Tuesday morning volunteer at Ronald McDonald House at the receptionist desk. I found the work rewarding. I initiated some ideas, and before I knew it, I resigned after 10 years as the executive director. It was during my Ronald McDonald House days that the Clarks with an E had a family decision to make. Our non-smoking mother had died of lung cancer in 1970. Dad had successfully maintained the family home, but now as age became a serious factor, the six Clarks addressed the issue as one concerning all six of us, and he needed help. Thus was devised a plan called Rent a Gent. Each of us would agree to have Dad live with us for 2 months each year, knowing that for the other 10 months, Dad would be as loved and well cared for as he had been with us. What happened on your turn was your responsibility. The transfer always had to include 2 weeks of supply of medicine. 6 siblings with spouses and children lived in 5 different states. I usually asked for February because it was the shortest month. It was all or none. We all knew how to play gin rummy and make vodka martinis, and everybody, including Dad, bought into it. Often my mother-in-law would visit us at the same time. She was affectionately called Grandma Keebler for her chocolate chip cookies, and she could play a mean game of gin rummy. Rent a Gent lasted 3 years before flying between locations became difficult for Dad. Great memories and many funny stories. And here's one. As children, we remember the annual Mom and Dad controversy over partying on New Year's Eve. Mom, one of 10 children, had frequent invitations to New Year's Eve family parties. Poor Dad, climbing the banking ladder with all the end of the year required financial reporting, was utterly exhausted by the end of December and had absolutely no interest in partying. Dad died on December 31st, 1993. Mom finally had her way. Dad went out on New Year's Eve, and we all smiled and raised our glasses. After 10 very successful years, Charles stepped down as dean, although continuing to teach and accept visiting professorships in Europe. The nest was empty, except for coming home for a hot meal or to do a load of laundry. We talk about a place called Okamic was prevalent among our friends, and so in 2004 we sold our home at the ripe old age of 74 and moved to Okamic. We advertised it to our children as our gift to them, and now they want to know how old they have to be before they can come and live with us. Old friends, new friends, we even met some people we liked. My days were always interesting and challenging. The Pictorial Directory, Blue Coats, Golden Gators, Renew Bible Study, Employee Scholarship Fund, Bosom Buddies, Okamic Ambassadors, and more. Our days have been productive here and very fruitful. And his favorite husband and I approached 2021, the year we both would celebrate our 90th birthdays. The children shared their plans to celebrate a joint party for us at the Sweetwater Bay Inn. All they wanted was a guest list. They would do the rest, although they did remark on how many people on the guest list were already dead. On June 12, 2021, there was much celebration with 21 rooms at the Sweetwater Bay reserved for overnight guests, champagne, wine, dinner for 40, flowers, a video put together by the kids, and much love. Friends and relatives came from all over. There were many tears as goodbyes were said the next morning following the breakfast. Someone remarked, you could feel the love in the air. And oh, were we tired. And oh, were we blessed. I would be remiss if in All About Me presentation, I did not salute the troops, as our children are often called. They're now all in their 50s, and they're now showing concern for their aging parents. Were they always behaved? No. Were they always loved? Yes. They are good friends with each other, and they are good friends with us. And are they funny? Mother's Day, I answered the phone. Good morning. You have reached the home of the most wonderful mother in the world. There's a pause. Katie says, oh, I'm sorry, I misdialed. And she hangs up. This year, on my birthday, April 2nd, Charles called, son Charles. Happy birthday, Mom. I checked the obituaries in the Gainesville Sun this morning. You're not there, so we're all on for dinner tonight with you and Dad at Embers. But don't worry. I've talked to the chef at Embers, and I told him my mother can order whatever she wants to eat. Just put it through the blender. Last week, I contacted son Charles. I was looking for another photo from the party for this presentation. This is his email response. I am sorry, but the program and its contents are copyrighted. You will have to discuss your needs with my solicitor. Did we ever have problems? Yes. Did we ever have worries? Yes. Of course, I often recall one of my mother's favorite quips. If all things were perfect, what would heaven be for? We are blessed, and I firmly believe what the Lord has promised, that the best is yet to come.
Well, I'm glad that you laughed. I was nervous. The front seats were the cheaper ones. Thank you for coming. We've had an interesting life, and it's still very interesting, despite the people that are here. If I'm nice, people get nervous. That means I don't like you. Questions? I hope not. There's a limit of 3. If you ask if there's only going to be 3 questions, that's 1 question. He gets paid extra.
Anybody here on Zoom have any questions? Just let me know. It was at what point in your life were you in Ireland?
Oh, when? Oh, many, many times. my heart sings there.
Those were just wonderful stories that you told us about Ireland. She said there were wonderful stories.
They were rated X. I was told I couldn't do this. Our friendships in Ireland continue. Our kids still have friends there. Those people still come here on honeymoon. These are the grandchildren. It's been a wonderful, wonderful story.
Anyone else with questions?
Oh, that's good news. This is serious here. All right. I warned them. Here you go. Okay. I thank you for coming, and I thank you all for being here. Oh, just a second. Debbie said I had a story to tell you. Debbie, you'll have to get it out of my pocket. As most of you know, I don't have the use of my right hand as a result of the radiation from breast cancer. But this morning, thank you, Bill. This morning, as I put this jacket on, I thought to myself, I wonder if these pockets really open. This jacket is 15 to 16 years old. People who were at Kay Bryan's funeral remember I wore this at the eulogy. That showed you that was at least 8 years ago. So I opened the pocket, and there's this note in the pocket. It says, in a handwriting, God bless the woman who wears this jacket. Is that a message? And you know what? Amen. This was never dry cleaned. It's not allowed to be dry cleaned. It was bought at Chico's. It was made in China. I had no idea. And thank you, God. And thank you.